Hey guys, it is Thursday night at 6 p.m., which can only mean one thing. It is time for the live chat on Salty Ginger Talk. Thanks so much for joining us tonight. We have an awesome guest. You're going to be meeting her for the first time tonight, but we're going to release. She did a full episode with us that we're actually releasing tomorrow. So this is a first on Salty Ginger Talk where we have a live stream guest, and then tomorrow we're going to release her full episode so you can hear kind of her full story, which has tons of twists and turns to it. We're probably not going to get into much of that tonight because I want you guys to see it and hear it from her in her own words. But her name is Angie Vancise. She is a resident of our great neighbor up north, Canada. And why don't we just bring her onto the live stream now? We can get going.
Hi.
Hey, Angie, how are you?
Good. How are you? Nice to see you again.
Yeah, you too. I was just extolling your virtues. I said this is a first. We're actually publishing your full episode tomorrow.
Oh, nice.
So it's for Salty Ginger Talk listeners, it's a double dose of Angie. You get the live stream today. And I told them that, excuse me, your story is all sorts of twists and turns, but there's tons of great lessons to learn in there. But I told them we're probably not going to get much into that tonight because I want them to hear it from you in your own words. I thought our conversation was just outstanding, and I don't want to ruin it or spoil anything that they're going to learn when they watch your episode tomorrow. So
sounds good to me. I'll just follow your lead.
Yeah, sounds good. How's your week going?
Well, it was a bit of a rough one. I fell last Friday and hit the back of my head, so I had a bit of a concussion. And then St. Patty's Day, my uncle, my mom's brother, passed away. So that was bad. Yeah.
I'm so sorry.
Thanks. But other than those two things, the week was good.
Gotcha. Yeah. How'd you, if you don't mind me asking, how'd you fall? Just like what happened?
Our driveway it had melted, the snow had melted, and then the snow came back and there was a stretch of ice, and I was heading out to go to my workout. And I noticed the bird feeder, the lid was off, and I thought I better fill that before I go. So I filled that, and I thought, well, there's no point in leaving the squirrel bowl that I have empty because they'll just pull the lid off the bird feeder again.
Sure.
Walked to is the damn squirrel's fault. I walked to the bowl and whoosh, right out. Like didn't even know. And I remember sort of laying there going, whoa, and the pain was crazy. And then apparently I called my partner Simon and I was crying. I don't remember any of that. We went to the hospital and they said it's just a minor concussion, but I knew something wasn't right. I knew I was confused. And so I just kind of rested the rest of the day and the week. And I feel good now. I don't feel anything other than maybe a little retention. You know, if somebody says something, I might not remember completely, but that could also be age.
So it's funny while you were talking about that, I heard a joke that I guess an anecdote, whatever you want to call it, but I heard somebody say one time, hey, you know, you can tell you're getting old when you fall because when you're young and you fall, people just laugh at you like it's hilarious when you fall when you're young, right? But when people are genuinely concerned for your well-being, you're like, well, shit, I got old. They're really worried about me.
Right. Yeah. I know all my friends called my daughter. They were all worried because I was meeting a friend of mine to go work out. And I obviously had to let her know. But I guess my texting was pretty confusing because I was all over the place. So she got worried. So then she called our other friend, and then they called my daughter. They were all wondering if anybody had my partner Simon's number because then they could call him and make sure that I had called him for sure. And then just before I was coming in here, I thought, well, I'll let my dogs out. And the one dog took off and I went chasing after him because I don't have any fence here. And I fell again. But I didn't hit my head this time. I just hurt my elbow. But
I was just gonna ask if you hit your head this time. But holy smokes, yeah, you gotta be careful when you're ambulating.
Oh, it's ridiculous. You just I don't understand it. But anyway, we'll be more careful.
Yeah, I hear. Well, I'm glad you're okay. I'm glad that things turn out because like those can be pretty serious when you hit your head like that. So yeah, I'm glad it worked out the way that it did, if it had to happen.
Yeah, me too.
Yeah, for sure. Well, so I thought, we had a great conversation. One of the things we talked about and that you talked about, and you just talked about it again, actually, was working out.
Yes.
And, on our channel, we try to get people to live a life of meaning and purpose. And one of the things that we encourage them to do a lot is physical activity, especially getting outside. And you just talked about bird feeders and squirrel feeders and chasing your dogs around, et cetera, et cetera. I
Yeah.
want to spend just a little time talking about how you think about that. I know you've kind of built it as a structure in your life. Can you talk a little bit about how you did that and why it's important to you? And then we can just see where that conversation takes us.
Sure. Yeah. I actually, when I was young, I didn't work out at all. I was always
Mm.
very fortunate in the way that I looked like I worked out, but I didn't.
Just natural beauty, right?
I guess I didn't, I was active, but I didn't actually physically work out. I would play sports or I would, but I didn't have to. And then when I was 42, I found that my body was changing, and I'm sure women and men probably find the same, where you can't eat what you used to. You look at food and you start to gain weight, and I was feeling not so good about myself. And I was complaining one day sitting on my couch beside my daughter.
Yeah.
And out of the mouths of babes, right? So she looks at me and she goes, "It's not going to fix itself sitting here, Mom." And okay, right. So in the recent weeks before that, my uncle, not the one that just passed, my other uncle, who basically kind of raised me, my
Mm.
dad was not really around much. He had been talking about this woman, Sarah Applegarth, who is amazing at what she does. And I had been thinking about maybe contacting her to see if, she would take me on or train me or whatever, because I didn't know the first thing. I'd gone to gyms and they bored me and I just didn't know what I wanted. Well, he said that she just opened up a new location. So I went there and I sat down with her and I really liked her. And she said, "Well, do you want to come and try a class?" And I said, "Nope, I just want to sign up." And she said, "Are you sure?" I said, "Yep. Because I know if I come for a class and it's brutally hard, I'm not going to come back. But if I prepay, I'll be here."
Yeah.
And I never looked back. It just it resonated with me. It was sort of one of the, I guess they're called HITS classes. They're high intensity training intervals or something.
Yep.
And I needed that. I don't self motivate in the exercise realm of things. So I definitely needed to have somebody pushing me and training me. And it was in a group format too, which I always like because you get the energy of other people.
Mm.
So I really, I mean, I could hardly walk. Don't get me wrong. My poor family, every moment I would move, I'd be like, "Oh," but it felt great. And my brain felt better. My body felt better. Everything felt better. And then little did I know that, 4 years later, or not even 2 years later, I would be using it for much more than just health. It would be mental health, it would be
Yep.
everything. So I don't want to get into that because that they'll learn tomorrow.
Yes, exactly. Totally get it. And look, for what it's worth, guys, check out that episode because Angie's had some crazy experiences and the way she kind of worked through them and the way she talks about it, there's a ton of lessons to be learned there. And we're so happy we were able to talk through that with you. And we're able to share it with the audience tomorrow. But yeah, it's one of those things, like I want to keep talking about health because you and I had a couple of conversations, anecdotal conversations when we were talking about a couple of things that really piqued my interest. But if you don't have your health, like nothing else matters. And it's like the very first thing, but we're so cavalier about it just as people now, and like, I know you, so like I said, before we brought, excuse me, before we brought you on, Angie's in Canada. I'm in the United States. It's the Western culture. Like it's pretty similar. There's some differences, but all in all, it's pretty similar. And I think we've just gotten kind of soft a little bit. Like we don't think we should have to work hard. We don't think we should be uncomfortable. We don't think we should do something we're not very good at and keep working at it until we get better. And it's funny because I took the opposite approach as you, because I was an athlete growing up. Like all I ever wanted to do was play baseball. I was going to be a professional baseball player from the time I
Wow.
was 3 until the time I married my wife. And so that meant all sorts of running and lifting weights and stretching and all the other things that go with it. And I liked it. I liked every part of doing it. But when it's mandatory like that, when there's no way around it, like if you don't do it, you really suffer dire consequences. When
Yeah.
I got out of being kind of a competitive athlete, I just quit working out at all. And then I had to get back into it later in my 30s. And then I did a good job for a long time. And then I got really busy with work about 5 years ago. And
Ah,
so then I sucked at it again, and I'm actually reestablishing it now. And all I'm doing right now is making sure I walk like at least
right.
10,000 steps a day. And I'd like to get back into weight training because I really enjoy weight training
Yes.
personally.
Yeah.
I've done so much running, and I'm actually a very good runner, especially for a guy my size. Like even in great shape, I'm like 6'3", 210 pounds, and I'm a really good, especially long distance runner, which really surprises people. Like I don't know where it comes from, but it comes from years of doing it, like
Yeah, that's right.
practice and controlling your breathing and counting your steps and all the tricks that good runners
Yeah.
taught me so that I could be good at it. But I feel like it's something that it contributes, like you had talked about it being such an integral part of your mental health. And I think that's a part of the physical exercise that gets missed, is how good it is for people mentally.
Yes.
And I don't know why we can't, like, I heard it said one time, and it was one of the best things I ever heard, that the most over abused substance in the world is food. And
Yes.
the least prescribed medicine is exercise. And I
Yes.
think both of those are very true.
Me too. I would agree with that. And, food, it's not what it used to be, right? I grew up on a farm and we always grew our own veggies. We'd be out there, we'd be planting them, we'd be picking them, we'd be pickling them, we'd be doing all of that. And there's nothing like taking a fresh vegetable from the garden and eating it. You can't replicate that taste anywhere. And I now have a garden here, and I love it. But the food that you get in the grocery stores, basically they always say the outside of the grocery stores stick to, don't go down the middle aisles because it's
Right.
and it's so true. And I try to buy organic when I can. I know that it still gets a bit sprayed and blah blah, but it's not as bad, and you can taste the difference. And I find that a lot of people, convenience has, it took 2 generations to get rid of that hard working, building a garden, but I'm finding, and my daughter and I were just talking about this the other day, I'm finding that it's coming back. A lot of younger people in their 20s are wanting to build gardens and have the community feel again. And it's very nice to see, because that has kind of gone off to the wayside, I think.
Yeah, I agree with you. And it's funny because, and I'm guilty of this like anyone else, right? So
Yep.
I'm 54. And so I'll look down on the younger generation, and they don't have a work ethic. They don't have this, they don't have that. I think they're pretty smart on a lot of things. They value relationships a lot. And I think they're starting to see some of the problems that have been created by this massive explosion in technology.
Yes.
And the kind of downplaying of family and relationships. And I think they're pushing back against that, saying, hey, family is important to me, and relationships are important to me. And I'm glad to see that. It's interesting. So my wife and I have 3 adult sons, one of whom is engaged to be married in August. And
Congratulations.
yeah, thanks so much. And his our future daughter-in-law is just an awesome young lady. We love her to death. So yeah, he scored. And then our oldest son just started kind of getting serious with someone, and we met her the other night, and she is pretty awesome as well. We just got to know her, but like she knocked it out of the park. We were like, man, I hope he's smart enough to close the deal there. Like I knew immediately with my wife, I sealed the deal real quick. A month in, I knew I was going to marry her, and like I suckered her into marrying me. So it worked out really well for both of us. But she talked a lot about family and the importance of, I want stability, and I want someone that wants that with me.
Yes.
And I'm glad to see that there seems to be a resurgence of that. in the younger generation. So I personally am really pleased to see that, because I think that would cure a lot of the challenges that we see in our society.
Oh, I do too. Mental health issues, just suicides, all of it. I remember my doctor when I was a little kid. The prescription was eat healthier and get out and get exercise. Our
Right.
bodies were never meant to sit still. I'm 57, and starting at 42, I wished I had started a lot earlier because of muscle memory. As we age, it's harder to build that muscle, but I don't do it for the looks. I do it for the functionality of it,
Yeah.
right? I do it so that when 10 years from now, I'm going to be able to walk. Like, I don't know about you, but I see people I went to high school with, and I'm like, what happened? Like, you have a walker. What are you doing? You're 57. Like, what is going on? If any young people are listening, of course, 57 sounds really old, but when you get to this age, it doesn't, you still feel like you're 18. And I want to be able to walk around. I mean, my partner and I, Simon and I, we go, and with his kids, we go ATVing and dirt biking, and it's taxing on your body. You're holding on and you're flying off and you're doing all these things. It's important, and I don't know, if I go for a walk in the woods, I feel 10 times better, even if it's just a slow pace. It doesn't matter. And I believe it's because everything that we need comes from nature, everything, and including those ions and things,
Yep. Yeah, I totally agree. Yeah. Hey, look, we've got audience is growing, and for the audience out there, feel free. We'd love it if you left a comment on our YouTube channel. If you have a question or you want to bring in a topic for Angie or I to address, feel free to drop it in there. Our producer monitors those comments on the YouTube channel live, and we will incorporate that into our conversation. But yeah, the whole natural thing, that kind of is a good place to pivot to. I think you and I, even though we experienced probably similar things, but a little bit different because we were in different countries during COVID.
Yes.
You and I have very similar views on COVID. So I will lead off here, just to take the pressure off of you. But I thought the whole COVID thing was almost entirely bullshit from the minute they started talking about it. So what I mean by that is, yes, COVID-19 was a real virus. And yes, it did impact some people pretty severely and pretty negatively. The number of people that it impacted like that, I think, was exponentially less than what was reported in the news. And I think most of the people that got really, really sick from COVID had a lot of other pretty serious health problems before they ever contracted COVID. There were very few people. I would argue that it's the same number of people that, like young, healthy people, that die of the flu every year. It was probably around the same number.
Yeah.
As COVID. And not once actually, that's not true. I heard a couple of times that these people were cut off, like they were kicked off of the programs, but I didn't hear anyone talking about health. Like, hey, why don't you exercise more? Why don't you start taking vitamins? Why don't you start eating healthier to protect yourself from this? What was your experience during COVID?
The same. I kept saying, okay, if you can test for this thing, which, by the way, they never did isolate it, or they never did find it. I don't even know what they were testing for, but let's just say that there was a test for it. I kept saying, okay, so test people. If people have the natural immunity to this, send them out in the world. Let them take for the team, because they're not going to get sick. And I kept thinking, where'd the flu go?
It just disappeared, right?
And somebody said to me, oh, it's the masking. Oh, okay. Well, if it's the masking, the coronavirus and the flu virus were the same virus. So they're both coronaviruses. So why would the masking work for one and not for the other? Like, that didn't make sense to me. There was a lot of questions. I had a lot of questions.
Yeah. That was my big challenge with it. Was, if I heard trust the science one more time, like when I heard someone say trust the science, I just knew they weren't very educated.
Yeah, same.
Because I can vividly remember my sophomore year sitting in Mr. Kelly's physics class when he explained the scientific method, which is hypothesis, test, judge the results, test again. Until you can prove it, with zero question. It
Yes.
is not fact in science. And scientific symposiums, they debate and argue with each other all the time about everything because they can't prove things. And so they're constantly testing and hypothesizing. And so you were now allowed to ask common sense questions like, if the virus doesn't spread outside, how did it start in nature?
Right.
Like, someone just explained that to me. Like,
Yeah.
I was saying this, by the way, I was saying this in March of
Me too.
2020. My wife thought about having me committed. She's like, you got to calm down.
I was the same. Actually, mine started in 2019, the November, because I'd heard of Event 201 and I thought, what is that about? And then when it started in the Wuhan, wherever, I immediately I said, okay, wait, if the masks work, then how in the world did it ever spread from Wuhan? Because they all wear masks there because of the pollution and stuff. So if they actually do work, how in the world did it spread from there? I don't understand. And I have Hashimoto's thyroiditis, which is a autoimmune disorder, right?
Sure.
Had it since I was 16. So I had been studying viruses and everything else, not at a university level, but at a level that I knew I needed natural. I knew what I needed to do for my body. So I kind of knew how viruses worked. And I kept saying to people, they last 2 to 4 weeks. They come in like a vengeance. They just obliterate the people, and then it tapers off and goes away. And yeah, there's different strains or there's different whatever, but if you have that immunity, it's gone. So I thought, okay, well, they even said 2 weeks to flatten the curve. Well, why do you think they said that? Because that is the 2 weeks that it happens in. And that's when I was saying, okay, send the people who have immunity to this typical type of virus out in the community and protect the ones that aren't. Put them away. But this virus did not operate in any different way than any other virus does. It comes in and it just goes crazy, and then everybody, and I'm sorry, but people do die of the flu. They've died of the flu for years. The weak, the vulnerable, the elderly, that's who we needed to protect. But the healthy people, that's who needed to get out there. But of course, there was a vaccine coming, so we couldn't talk about natural immunity.
I refuse to call it a vaccine. Vaccines eradicate disease. I call it a shot.
It's true.
Yeah,
Good
like
point.
if you wanted to get a shot, fine. And for what it's worth, I absolutely did not get the COVID shot. I will never. You can stick it in my corpse if I'm ever going to get it. That's when I'll get it. You can give it to me after I'm dead. But I am not putting something in what I consider to be a pretty my body's very efficient. Like, that's one of the reasons I was a good athlete, is like my body uses oxygen. I can push myself through stuff other people can't.
Yes.
Simply because I can absorb the pain, because I got, like, I don't know, my body just uses oxygen better than a lot of other people's. Mm-hmm. And so I wasn't going to screw that up. They didn't do any testing on this. There was no clinical trials. There was no studies that you could look at. I'll take my chances in nature. Thank you very much.
There was one little study done, and all the animals that they injected died. So,
perfect.
What could go wrong?
Let's mandate this for everybody.
Right. Let's just put this in everybody's body, because it's going to be different in a human. But there was a lot of questions. I had a lot of questions. And when I found out it was patented, and I don't know about America, but in Canada in 2017 to 2018, the COVID tests were already ordered, and they were called COVID tests. You could go on and see them all ordered. It had been pre-planned.
Really?
Yeah. And we have a friend of ours who worked in the school system, and they had to order those rapid tests, or whatever they were, rapid antigen tests. And I guess when this particular administrator called to order the test, they asked how many positive and how many negative they wanted.
Oh.
What? And that would explain why when people were showing that they put it under their tap water, it tested positive, or when they, and they would take it right out of the package and not touch anything, and just, and it would test positive. That's why, because, there were people showing within a 15-minute period, they'd take 2 or 3 tests, and there'd be 1 or 2 positive, 1 or 2 negative within that 15 minutes. I mean, and then all of a sudden our BC, which is a different province to where we are, quite a ways away, but they have a great university who does a lot of scientific studying. And they determined that that rapid antigen test was not accurate a lot of the times. So they pulled it out of the hospitals. Oh, I think I shared something about that once and got ridiculed as a conspiracy theorist, but that's okay. I'd rather be one than not.
Yeah, I'm with you. And like, so you had talked about flu and the coronavirus being the same. So like the whole masking thing didn't make any sense to me at all because so I have flipped a lot of houses. So I'm in the grocery industry, but on the side, I have done a lot of kind of real estate investment. I don't anymore because it's a lot of work and I got tired of dealing with investors and blah, blah, blah. But I did a lot. I probably bought and sold 150 properties in my life.
Wow.
And so we put together construction crews and we would do remodels and rehabs for investors. And we thought about getting our mold certification so that we could start a mold remediation business because like whenever we had to have mold remediated, it was like thousands of dollars. I'm like, those guys were here for a day and a half and I'm paying them $4,000. What the hell?
I know.
Yeah. So we went through the mold remediation, my son and I, my oldest son. And it was interesting. I guess a couple things about that before I get into my point related to COVID, but there's over 100,000 different types of mold that exist naturally. Mold is nature's way of reclaiming organic life forms after they die. That's what mold does. So when you've got a deer that falls over in the woods, mold's going to eat it up and take it back into the earth. That's what it does.
Right.
And so mold, you're always breathing mold. It's always in the air. You're doing it right now. People freak out when they hear the word mold, but in of itself, mold is not a bad thing. It's nature's way of recycling.
Yeah.
But there are some strains that some people, especially if you have respiratory diseases, can be really affected by. And you don't know what those are because unless like you hear people say black mold, okay, it is black, but you don't know what strain of mold that is until you send it to a laboratory.
Right.
And have it tested. But my long-winded point here is we had to you had to wear the respirators, like the respirators you saw in like Breaking Bad, the legit, hey, nothing's getting in here respirators.
Yeah.
And what they told us was like, you can see my ruggedly handsome beard that I have. If you have a beard, you're not authorized to put on a respirator and go into a site with mold because the gap that is formed between your whisker and the seal of the mask is too big to prevent mold from getting inside the mask. Sure. Because the mold, I think what they said, it was somewhere between 0.7 and 0.2 microns mold is. Well, COVID's about the same size. So I'm like, those masks aren't doing a goddamn thing. Not a thing.
No.
And someone show me the scientific evidence behind this and I'm in. Like all I wanted was evidence, but nobody could produce any evidence.
No, they would just say it's science.
Grandma killer.
Right. You killed grandma. And I said to somebody one time, I said, unfortunately, probably throughout our life, from birth till now, we have made somebody sick, right? And this is all based on germ theory. Yeah. There's also terrain theory, which maybe it's true too. I don't know if you've heard of terrain theory, but it's based on that our bodies are actually just detoxing, that there is no real germ contagion, that we can't get something from somebody else. And when you start to study that theory, a lot of things start to make sense. And I don't know which theory is right or which theory is wrong, but I don't see why both couldn't be, possible. But I just, they would wear the mask. They still wear the mask. I don't know about you, but there's still people wearing masks. And I'm like, even on the box, people like look on the back of the box. It says will not protect you from COVID-19 right on the freaking box. I guess that doesn't matter then. Like, I guess they're lying. I don't know. Maybe they're not following the science. I have no idea.
So much of it was performative. And then look, I use for a lot of my decisions in life, I just use the old-fashioned eyeball test. I watch what's happening.
Me too.
And I make judgments, observations, and decisions based on what I see. So we run grocery stores. So we were essential employees. Like we were worth sacrificing to go out into this contagion and make sure people could still eat. I had
Right.
exactly 0 people die, thank goodness,
Good.
during the COVID, and we had over 500 employees at that time.
Wow.
Not one of them even went to the hospital with COVID,
That's
and
great.
we were out there every single day. So I looked around and said, "All right, so when do people start keeling over? When do the zombies attack? When does it happen?
Yeah.
Like how long? You tell me."
Yeah.
Yeah,
And if you looked up the death rate, it was less almost half the time, right? It really didn't change. And my thing was too, okay, so if this happened in Wuhan in November, the busiest travel month is December.
right.
So how come it didn't hit till March in many cases? Like what how this was the smartest virus I've ever seen in my life. It didn't affect you if you were sitting at your table, but it affected you when you got up to walk to the bathroom. It would affect you apparently when you were alone in your car and you had to wear a mask, or when you were going to be intimate with your partner. You couldn't work out at the gym, but you could be an employee at the gym without the jab. So I guess it only affected you because it knew you were an employee versus a workout. I don't know. Like there was just so many questions, and I was like, okay, how did it get suspended from November 2019 to March 2020? And if you go back, even now, you can go and look at the stats. I'm a stats person. I like
Me
to look
too.
at stats.
Yeah, me too.
So I went and I looked at the stats, and I looked and I thought, oh, look, the flu, boom, and then COVID was up here,
Yep.
and then our health. Canada Health, I forget the name of it all, but anyway, they put out this thing because they always used to have, oh, the flu is 36,000 cases a year. Make sure you get your flu shot. So people started asking, where did the flu go? Why is there no flu? And you're not pushing the flu shot anymore, and blah, blah, blah. Well, all of a sudden they brought out these models, these projection models that, oh, no, that wasn't the actual numbers of the flu. They were really only around 300,
Nope.
but these were projected amounts, and I was like, what? Okay, so but now COVID's, you're not projecting now, right? Like you're actually giving us the facts. Like I don't know about you, but I was looking around at everybody thinking, what's happened? How did this happen? How did these people fall for this so deeply? You know?
Yeah, we have it's in the political environment now in the United States, it's very polarized. And so anyone that I shouldn't say anyone, I shouldn't speak in global statements, but it's very popular
Yeah.
to call someone who supports Donald Trump a Nazi, or Donald Trump is a Nazi.
Right.
And I'm like, you guys missed the plot. The people that acted like Nazis were the ones who were calling the police on their neighbors for having a party during
Yes.
COVID. They were the ones
Right.
that were calling and saying, "Oh, I counted 9 people in their house. It's only supposed to be 6. Come arrest
Right.
my neighbor."
Yes.
That's what Nazis did.
Yes.
They didn't
Or
want it
did
wasn't
you
because
get
they didn't want immigrants in their illegal immigrants in their
right?
country.
Yeah, exactly. And did you get yelled at for walking the wrong way down an aisle in the grocery store? Like, what? That's how smart this virus was. It's
Yeah.
only gonna hit you if you're going the wrong direction. Like, what the heck? And our pre like our I don't know what you'd call him in your, maybe like a governor, but for Ontario, he owned the company that made those little stickers. So he made quite a bit of money
You
during
did all
that.
right. Yeah.
I guess, didn't he? Like, oh my God. And there's still remnants of those stupid things, like 6 feet apart. Oh, was that science? Where's that? Like a sneeze travels further. I couldn't, it made no sense to me. The 6 feet apart. None of it made sense to me.
Yeah, it's funny because when that social distancing term came out, I'm like, hey, I've been doing this my whole life. I try to stay away from people to begin with. Like, I don't like being around a lot of people and crowded in. I like my space,
Right.
But to be told like, oh, you can't be that, like shutting down schools and shutting down sporting events. And that was the part that was most frustrating to me, was what we did to that generation of kids.
Oh, my daughter is a teacher. She's just finishing her second or her first year in teachers college, but she had her early childhood education, and she's worked in schools. She owned her own forest school and stuff.
Mm.
And we're just talking about this the other day, and she said, Mom, it's so bad. Like the kids in grade 6, they can't write, they can't read, they can't do anything. And it's because of that. I felt so sad for them, and babies being born and not being able to see the mannerisms of speech. Like there's lots of speech impediments. I mean, I guess it's good for the speech pathologists, because they're going to be doing really well. But I just, these poor children, the social aspect, I mean, technology is bad enough, right? The screens and them being in their phone all the time. But now to throw them in and have them on screens and their social activity was this, like I felt so bad for them. We were lucky. Our generation was really lucky to be raised in the era that we were raised in my opinion.
Yeah, I'm with you. I think it suits us really well that we had to be kind of feral to make it through adolescence when we were kids. Like you were kind of on your own. Like it didn't matter.
Totally on your own. Yeah.
We had my favorite example is, do you remember jarts? Did you have jarts in Canada?
I don't think I remember jarts. No, what are they?
So jarts were they were lawn darts, and they had
the spike on them.
Exactly.
I didn't know that's what they were called. I actually have a permanent scar on my foot from one of those.
There you go. Yeah, because we didn't. That's when we were kids. We didn't play them, so we'll all stand down at this end and throw them towards the circle at that end. No. You would put 2 circles out, and then you'd stand by there and see. Hey, they almost got it. Oh, it almost got me.
Right. Well, what happened to me was I was always somebody who would have a mason jar collecting little moths, the fuzzy little moths or something. Like I always loved nature, and I loved anything animal or insect related other than spiders. But I would go around and try and find these little moths, these fluffy little moths or butterflies. So my brother and a neighbor were playing those. And I guess I happened to walk, I stepped, and one went right into my foot as I stepped. I wasn't even playing the game.
You were just collateral damage.
I was total collateral damage. And no one said, look out. Like I just,
It's a good thing you were walking slow, because you could have been worse.
It could have been a lot worse. And I remember just looking down going, oh, that hurt. And I just pulled it out and threw it back at them and went about my day. It was just the way it was. It's like, oh, that happened. Okay. And you just moved along, because there was no parent at that time. It was after school and my mom was working, and you were ouch,
That's exactly right. So there was a very short point in my life where I wanted to learn to skateboard. So I got a skateboard, and we went up to see my mom's grandparents who were in Seattle. And Seattle's a fairly hilly city, and my great grandparents happened to live on this hill. So I'm like, cool, I'll take my skateboard. And so I've got this idea in my head that I'm going to go down this like 8% incline hill on my skateboard. Well, it was awesome for about half of the way down the hill, and then I was like, oh, I'm fucked. I'm done. I'm not going to stick the landing here. This is going to end in a train wreck. Fortunately, I was playing baseball already, and so I knew how to do like a head first slide. So I was like, I got to make the decision before this like ends itself and I slam into a car or something.
Yeah.
And I just dove off onto the street and just slid about 15 yards on my stomach and my elbows and my knees. And, I picked up my skateboard and, hobbled back up to my grandparents' house. And my parents were like, well, that was stupid. Go wash yourself off.
I know.
You idiot. What do you think was going to happen?
Right? I know. There was just no, oh, come here. Oh my God, what happened? It was just, unfortunately, I think it's us. Well, I know for me, I remember saying to my mom, I won't raise my kids the same way. I'm going to be a better mom. And of course, I probably should have still carried on the way she did, right? Like you figure we probably created this generation of, oh, I can't do that because, we didn't have that. So it's kind of funny how it went,
Yeah. Guilty. I know guilty is charged. My wife and I talk about it and said, we should have and look, our sons, I say they've got the right things wrong with them. They got their problems. like anyone else, but we never had drug users. We never had, they're respectful to women. They all hold down jobs. They own houses. They're decent members of society, and they're respectful of people. And so we got the big stuff right. Thank goodness for my wife. My kids would have been in therapy forever if I was the primary caregiver. My wife is an awesome mother and an awesome woman, and she gets all the credit for that. But
I love that.
Yeah, we should have done more. Like, we should have made them struggle more. We should have let them figure it out more instead of intervening and helping them when some situations that we helped them in,
Yeah. Absolutely. Same with me. My daughter's amazing. She's so smart, and she's going to be a very good teacher. She always was a teacher. She, as a little kid, would pull out this little easel and make us sit, and she'd try and teach us. I was always the bad student, and making her. But I think there were times where I would definitely push her into things, and that she didn't want to do. But then there were other times where I probably could have done more, like you say, right? I mean, there's no handbook for these things. You just kind of do the best. And she always had a very strong spirit, very, very stubborn. So sometimes I remember, she'd be having a temper tantrum in her room or whatever, and I'd go up and try and offer 2 or 3 solutions. And when they didn't work, I'd just say, well, you got to figure it out then. I'll be in the kitchen.
Good luck to you.
Yeah. And I remember when she went into kindergarten, the teacher came up one day after school, and, we'd always check and see what was going on and everything. And she said, it was really cute today, because my daughter's name is Marley, and Marley was sitting there, and there was a bunch of kids at the table, and one of them was having issues, and she tried to help them. And then they said, no, that's not going to work. And then she tried again and tried again. Finally, she said, well, I can't help you then. I kind of went, oh, yeah.
That sounds familiar.
Yeah.
Now, did your daughter, so I only have boys, and so very different experiences through teenage years and whatnot. Was your daughter in the throes of kind of the social media explosion?
Yeah. So she was born in 97. And so for the first part of her life, she wasn't. And I remember I wanted her, I remembered my upbringing with my uncle and my aunt and my mom. They were very outdoorsy. We were always looking for animals or looking for nature, looking at nature, the buds coming out on the trees in spring, all that kind of stuff.
Yep.
And we'd travel. My uncle had a condo in Snowmass, Denver, near Denver. And we would go there, but we would drive. And he was always, if he took us on a trip, it wasn't just to have fun and lay by the beach. We would learn about the culture. We would go and experience the whatever they were doing that day. And on the trips to out west, we would do the same. He'd stop and he'd make us look for live, they had, I don't know, deer, or there'd be elk, or there'd be something.
Sure.
So when Marley was born, I wanted that same thing for her. Because then it was TV, right? They'd stick in front of the TV. I didn't want that. So we'd sit and we'd make puppets, and I'd take her out and I'd show her the buds on the trees. And she went to a volleyball camp when she was 13. And I remember halfway there, they stopped, and she sent me this photograph. She was out on the end of a dock, and it was beautiful. It was water. It had a sunset. And she sent it to me. She goes, Mom, look at how beautiful. And I remember thinking to myself, wow, here's a 13-year-old that's sending me a photograph of this beautiful scenery. I've done something right, Yeah. And finally, my husband at the time and I had decided that we weren't going to let her have a phone until she was 16. But at 13, 14, the summer of when she turned 14, all of her friends had phones, and, we had pay phones that we could go to and call. Well, there wasn't really any pay phones anymore. So I kind of thought, well, maybe we should get her one for that, but we limited it, so she kind of was a little bit of both. She's in between, right? Which, nowadays, like even she said, it's so sad, to see these young toddlers and they're just stuck on these screens and what it does to their brains. So she said she doesn't want that in her classroom. Like, she wants to be able to bring hand to paper again and, do that. So I think hopefully moving forward, that generation will kind of reverse this a little bit, I'm hoping.
Yeah, I'm with you. I was curious if and it sounds like this may not have been the case, but there's been a lot of research and kind of social science around the impact that like this Instagram / Facebook culture has had on young women
Yes.
and body image. Did you struggle with that, or did you have to deal with any of that with her, or did you
No, thank
through that?
goodness.
Yeah.
When she was little, I kind of knew because I was a girl and I knew at what age I stopped listening to my mother. So I kind
Totally.
of
Yeah.
knew I got to get it all in before age 13, 12 and 13. Because when that happens, I'm going to be nothing, right?
Yeah.
So I kind of spoke a lot to her when she was 9 and 10, which was very good. So I talked a lot about, we go out in public, and one of the things that I was worried about was her exploiting her body to get attention, right? Because I saw that in high school a lot with a lot of women who didn't have a good self-esteem. Because when we're teenagers, men and women, I think, don't have the best self-esteem, right? We think everyone's different. We think everyone's got a better body or a better hair, better eyes. You're never going to compare yourself to someone who's less than. You're always going to compare yourself to somebody who's better. And so I didn't want her to have all of that, and especially with that coming up. It wasn't a big thing then, like all the likes and the this and the that. But we would walk around and we'd, it maybe was a little bit mean at times, but I would look at a girl who was dressed provocatively and I would say, Marley, what do you think? Do you think she looks good? Like, do you like what she's wearing? No, Mom, that looks awful. And so we would kind of do that in a mall or something, and I would say, well, what do you think would make that look better? Well, if she had a sweater on and covered up her boobs, that kind of thing. So she never really had that body image problem because we had discussed it early on,
Yeah.
And I would make her watch Intervention, actually. Did you guys have that there?
I've seen that show. Yeah.
Yeah. I would not make her, but we'd sit down and we'd turn that on. And it was pretty graphic. And I was okay with that because I wanted her to see, if you got into drugs, this could happen. This could be you.
Yeah. The real world consequences, right?
Yeah, that's right. Yeah. And I wasn't shy to show her those things. I think there are, that shock value is sometimes good, at a certain age. Obviously, you're not going to want a 5-year-old to see it. But when they're mentally ready for it, you can prepare them for it. And so I did that. And I was very thankful that she didn't have that to deal with,
Yeah. Yeah. For us, it was, obviously with boys, I think it's one of the big problems with just kind of the proliferation of porn and availability to those types of images. Like, we're roughly the same age. I'm 54. So we're absolutely same generation.
Yeah.
And you think about like all the movies in the 80s, a lot of times there was a gratuitous shot of a naked lady.
Right.
And it used to be a big deal to see a naked woman. Like, you did not see women naked a lot. And I can tell you, as a young man who was very interested in the feminine form,
yes,
like, it was a bit like, oh my gosh, we just saw a naked woman. That was awesome. But like, it was a prize. It was, it had some magic to it. And now it's been commoditized. And I just think it's terrible for society. I think it's terrible for women. I think it's terrible for men.
Yeah.
Like, I've never understood strip clubs for men. I think I've been to a strip club maybe 5 times in my life, and I've gone 0 times by choice. I've gone for a bachelor party or, hey, you want to go get a drink? And I wind up at a strip bar. I'm like, isn't there anywhere else we could get a drink? And I don't drink either. So,
yeah.
But I always thought that it was way more demeaning for the men than the women in those places, because here's the way I look at it. If I got to pay a woman to pay attention to me, because make no mistake about it, that's what you're doing.
Of course.
In those places, you're paying a woman to pay attention to you.
Yep.
And if I don't have enough game to get women to pay attention to me without slipping money into their underwear, just hit me with a bus. It's over.
Right.
Like,
right.
If I've lost that magic touch, what's the point of being here? I don't get it.
Yeah. Well, I'm glad that you say that because, as a woman, I could never understand why a man would want to go to a strip club. Um, Especially in our era. Well, in our era, maybe because, as you say, you didn't see naked women that often, but I could never understand it in terms of why would you want someone that exploits their body, first of all, for money? And I know some of them were putting themselves through school, and I certainly don't have a negative connotation around that. Like, I know some of them had to do that, and that was just their way of making money, but it wouldn't have been my choice on how to make money. I would have rather probably shoveled horse manure, to be honest.
Right.
But to each their own choice. But I just never could understand what was so compelling about it for men. Like, I could, for me, it never made sense. So I'm glad that you actually said that, because that helps me a little, because that's the way I felt about it too. I just couldn't figure it out.
And look, I get it. You can be lonely, and like, look, I love women. Like, I'm completely and totally married to and committed to my wife. I have no interest in a woman that's not my wife.
Yes.
With that said, I've appreciated the feminine form from the time I was old enough to go, hey, that looks pretty good. Like, I get it. Like, I understand looking at attractive women and finding women attractive.
Sure.
But there's just no substance to those transactions. And I always felt like if I, as a man, didn't have enough gravitas or the ability to communicate, or Jesus Christ, crack a joke or start a conversation, there's got to be some way you can get women to pay attention to you, isn't there? Like,
right.
you can't ask what her favorite food is. You can't ask what she's doing this weekend. You can't carry on a conversation enough that you got to slip money into her underwear. I don't understand it. I've never understood it.
I know. I guess maybe it would be good to talk to somebody who does that a lot and enjoys it, because maybe they have a different take on it, right? Like, maybe they can explain that, well, no, it's just blah, blah, blah. I don't know. To me, it was, we had one in a city near us, and it was called Crossovers. I think it's still in operation, but it was the big one. Like, everybody would go to Crossover. And, you could often find many, and women would go too. Like, it was kind of interesting. Plus, you paid a lot more for your booze. So, like what? You can go to just a normal bar and pay half the price for your beer. Like, I don't know. It never made sense to me, but
yeah,
there was the aspect of the exploitation of women too that I didn't really appreciate, because I'm not a piece of meat. I'm a woman. I have feelings. I have thoughts and desires and dreams. And, I don't necessarily want to be Googled over all the time, or I don't want to be looked at like a piece of meat, So to me, it was just that,
Yeah. And so, and like, my whole point to this is, I don't think it's good for our society as commoditized as we've made it, as accessible as we've made it. And I'm a capitalist. Like, everybody gets to make their own decision, and it's not my place to tell you can or cannot do whatever you want to do to make money. And if that's how you choose to use the assets that you have, more power to you. But I don't get it. It doesn't resonate with me, for sure. Yeah.
And unfortunately, a lot of them, I think, were addicted to many substances too. Not all of them, but some of them, and it was all part of the sex trafficking rings too. It would, like, a lot of them had owners, I guess you could call them. Like, I don't want to say a pimp, because they're not really a pimp, but they would have a manager, so it kind of could tie into that too.
Manager sounds a lot better than pimp. That sounds like branding on the manager's part.
Right, exactly. Yeah.
Kudos to all the managers out there who have successfully branded themselves as something other than what they actually do.
Right. They're like a manager.
Yeah, that sounds way better.
Yeah. Yeah, and I felt sorry for some of them, because I think some of them didn't want to be there. And I know there were some, like, I went to university with a couple of girls who were exotic dancers. but they were strictly exotic dancers. They were on, you couldn't touch them. They were, it was an actual, they had taken dance their whole lives, and that was how they put themselves through school. And I quite admired that, because that was a different, completely different, animal, if you will.
Sure.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, that makes sense. If I had a friend that dated a girl that worked, and he said, she doesn't usually go out with clients. It's just me. I'm like, oh yeah, just you, huh? Okay. All right, buddy. If you say so.
Yeah. Yeah. She's exclusive.
Yeah, exactly. I'm just saying, like, it might be worth getting some penicillin. I'm just like a friend.
Yeah.
I'm just telling you that that's hard for me to believe. I'm not trying to
Well,
be a jerk, but
yeah.
I live in the real world, my friend. But on that subject of exploitation, you've actually done quite a bit of kind of digging and work on that. And you wrote a book. I don't want to talk about it because it's in our conversation that we're airing tomorrow. But in our post conversation, you'd kind of reference you'd done quite a bit of work on that. I was curious if you'd mind talk a little bit about some of the work that you've done and some of the things that you found about that whole industry, I guess is the way to say it.
Yeah. And I think right now is obviously, it's being exploited, through the Jeffrey Epstein stuff. But yeah, back in 2019, I had always wanted to be an author. And I had written my first book, Cry of an Osprey, which was completely different than Hidden in the Shadows. But I had a photograph that my grandfather had in his bunch of photographs. And in it was a woman standing next to a tiny box. And when I got older, I realized the box was actually a coffin. He was a police officer, and that was his first case. And I never knew what happened. But somehow, as I started to try and investigate a little bit of it, all of this child trafficking stuff kept falling in my lap. And I don't even know if I'm allowed to say that on here because you might get shadow banned. But
whatever. I don't care.
Yeah, I don't either. I care that you would get shadow banned, but I don't.
Yeah, like it's not. I want people to see it, but like they're going to do what they're going to do. I'm not they're not going to censor us. So feel free to talk about, say whatever you want. Yep.
Okay. So so somehow all of these things. The first documentary I watched was called Out of Shadows, and it was a man out of Hollywood. He was a stunt guy, and he had started to see things. And there was a reporter, Liz. I forget her last name. I meant to look it up, but she uncovered what is now known as Pizzagate. And it had been debunked, of course, by all the fact checkers. Well, now it's not debunked anymore because it's all in the Epstein files. I mean, you can, if you have the files, you can type in pizza and you'll be there for a couple hours and you won't even get through all of the emails that include the word pizza. So somehow it led me down this path. And I was like, no, this is bullshit. There's no way this is happening. And with people involved, like this is crazy. Like this
it sounds so outlandish when you say it out loud, right?
It was crazy. So I thought, there's no way. I'm going to prove that this is wrong. Well, my God, the more I dug, the more I found, and the more it was getting proven to be true. And I listened to survivor after survivor after survivor. And these were from different decades. They were from different eras, different countries, different everything. And their stories were exactly the same. So then I realized that it's a lot of rituals. They're doing rituals. And in these rituals, they do the same things all over the world for many, many centuries. So I started to realize this is big. This is really big. But what hurt me the most was the comments on these survivors' YouTube videos. They were, you're lying. How can you lie about this? This is ridiculous. You're insane. You're crazy. You're this, you're that. And my heart was breaking because if you actually sat for 5 seconds and looked at their face and looked at the trauma within the space of them, you would know without a shadow of the doubt that they are absolutely telling you the truth. So it became a mission of mine then to give them a voice, to let them have their voice, but to also give them a voice, to let them know they've been heard and that I believe you. So then I knew that my next book had to be exposing all of that. So in 2022, Hidden in the Shadows was published. And, I got called a bunch of things just the way I did with COVID. But, COVID prepared me and I just really didn't give a shit.
Right.
I was like, yeah, whatever. I don't care. This is real. This is true. And I was on a podcast last night. I had been on it about 2 or 3 months ago before the Jeffrey Epstein files came out. And it was cute because I had talked about this on the show. And the guys were all like, yeah, I could see some of them were, yeah, I hear you. But some of them were like, crazy town, And I get this email saying, wow, the Epstein files, your book, it's real. And I was like, huh? So they brought me back on last night, which was kind of fun. But yeah, it took me down and it became a mission, and now it's a mission. So then I've just recently started by going through the process of publishing, I realized that the traditional publishing houses are also very censoring, and they will not pick up anything that is truth. And so I decided that I would start my own so that I can now give voices that way as well. And yeah, that was how it all sort of started and how it kept going.
Yeah, I think it's so important. I watched so I try to study a lot. I try to learn a lot. I'm super, super open-minded, and it's something I try to encourage everybody to be. So let's just say, for argument's sake, that I completely disagree with everything Angie just said. I do not, just to put it on the record.
Yep.
But let's just say that I disagree completely with everything she just said.
Yep.
Am I not better off at least hearing the concept and hearing her thoughts on it and hearing her evidence so that I could make my own decisions? I could argue against it if I have contrary evidence.
Right.
And so I try to do all that. I try to do as much of that as I can, especially with people who disagree with me or who have different thoughts or opinions than I do. Because I already know what I think. I don't need people saying back to me what I already think.
Exactly.
That's not super helpful,
Exactly.
And so I was watching a thing that talked about kind of the democratization of information. Mm-hmm. And I think that's where a lot of the censorship comes from. I think it's the legacy power brokers trying to control what little control they still have left
100%.
Over information. And I just totally disagree with that. I think we're better off. Anyone out there can disagree completely with me
100%.
on anything I say. Your approach to debunk me should be a better argument with better facts.
Exactly.
Not to stop me from speaking. I don't want to stop you from speaking because you disagree with me.
Yeah.
I'm the exact opposite. I want you to say whatever you're going to say, and then I would be happy to debate you with the information and knowledge that I have and see where we land. But the censorship's got to go. It's such a bad
ridiculous
thing. Yeah.
Do you remember when we were kids, you'd watch the news or you'd watch something like 60 Minutes or something, like a show that would have journalists, and they would have a topic and they would take, let's say, natural medicine versus mainstream medicine. Let's just give that as an example. They would have a naturopath doctor and they would have a mainstream doctor. Yep. And they would have them debate, or they would have them chat, or they would give you the sides of both. And then you would decide which way resonated with you. And somewhere along the way, that completely disintegrated. And now it's just strictly, nope, this or nothing, right? There's no, and you're an idiot if you don't think the same way as CNN does. I just was called an idiot the other day on Threads. I was called a psycho and an idiot because I couldn't provide a news article from USA Today or the New York Times or CNN or whatever to back up whatever it was I was talking about on there.
Yeah. Yeah. I always joke, someone will say, you're an ignorant jerk. And I'm like, hey, I'm not ignorant. I'm a jerk. Got it. Duly noted. That's
Yeah, great. But I'm not ignorant.
I'm not ignorant.
And I love it when someone says to me, do your research. I'm sorry. I've done nothing but for the last 6 years. Like, you watch the news and that's your research. Like, and you're telling me to do the research. Yeah, okay.
Yeah, and I don't know, like the news in the States is kind of bifurcated. So if you're right wing, you listen to Fox News and believe
Right.
everything that they say.
Yes.
And if you're left wing, you watch CNN or MS Now, whatever the hell they tried to rebrand it, and you
Yep.
believe everything they say. If you believe everything either of those or any of those organizations say, you're screwed. Like
Yeah.
you're not getting the real news or the real picture. Like you're getting
Totally.
a very, very curated and intentional attempt to slant your thinking. And look, I always say even a broken clock is right twice a day. So
Yeah,
do
that's
they
right.
report some facts on there? Sure. Yeah, they
Yeah.
report some facts on there.
Of course.
With their slant, with their spin, they omit other facts, try to make things look a certain. It's like COVID, right? So they used to have the death counter on the TV. This many people died today of COVID. How many people die under normal circumstances? I can tell you that in the United States, that what was it? I think it was about 3.2 million people die. If I remember right, that broke down to was that 8,000 people a day, something like that.
Yeah. Yeah.
So okay, 3,000 died of COVID. What's your point? Like,
yeah,
how do we know they weren't going to die of a heart attack or something?
Right.
Like, prove that this was from COVID, and then I'll get worked up.
That's right. Well, and that was it. Like I looked up the average death every day throughout the whole world. It was 150,000 people every day will die. And I shared that. But of course I was a conspiracy theorist because, that's not the right number. Really, that came off of stats, the world stats or whatever, wherever. I even had a link, and I love that. It's like, well, where's your link? Well, where's yours?
Right.
Where's your link? Can you please give me your link? Because I really want to see it. And I'm going to, because I don't like these vaccines anymore. I'm an anti-vaxxer all of a sudden, and I'm going to poison everybody by walking around without my vaccines.
Yeah.
Well, if you have your vaccine, then why do you care? Because if you believe in it that much, I should be the one that's at risk. No? Well, it's the people that are immune compromised that can't get the vaccines that you're putting in danger. I'm immune compromised over here. Hello.
Well, the other thing too is I don't necessarily think it's society's job to tailor everything in society to the exception to the rule. So I don't know. I didn't go to school with anyone ever that had a peanut allergy, but now peanut allergies are everywhere. And if I get next to a peanut butter cracker, I'm going to drop dead.
Right.
Really? What happened? When did all this stuff start proliferating our society? How come that never happened to anyone that I went to school with? Why is it different now?
Yeah. What's different? What changed? Because I don't remember that either. I mean, there might have been one person who, reacted to something, but it would be a rash or it would be there was nobody that would die because of, I don't ever remember that in my high school or my public school. And then when Marley started to go to school, that's when I started to see it. And I was like, what's with these peanut? You're not allowed to send your children to school with peanut butter. And I'm like, what? What's going on? What's wrong with peanut butter? Well, there's kids that have allergic reaction. And even if they touch this amount of oil, they'll go into this anaphylactic shock. And I was like, what is happening? Where's this coming from?
Yeah.
And it was just strange. And you can't necessarily find any proper documentation on why, because it's all censored too, right? There's peer-reviewed studies that have been taken down because heaven forbid we get the truth. It's crazy.
Yeah, for sure. And that kind of takes me back. I was thinking about this and then we got kind of meandered in the conversation, but going back to food, my wife and I were talking about this the other day. It didn't occur. She brought it up and When do you remember getting your first microwave when your family got their first microwave?
Oh yeah.
I
Yeah.
vividly, like I can still see it being put in the kitchen. Like I remember
Yeah.
we had to have a friend come over and put it in because like my dad wasn't sure how it would work. So we had a friend come over and do it. My dad was not mechanically inclined. Turns out you just had to plug it in and turn it
Yeah.
on. But
Right.
that's all you had to do.
It was going to be complicated. Yeah.
Yeah. But I was 8 or 9. And so that would have been like 1980, 1981, somewhere in
Yeah.
there.
Yeah.
But that was one of the reasons that we all cooked was there was no way to heat up food. Like you
That's
couldn't
right.
instantly have food. You had to plan for a
Yes.
meal or you had
That's
to
right.
eat the ingredients, you know?
Right. Yeah.
And I think that's one of the biggest problems is that, like you talked about, that convenience
Hmm.
that exists now. I mean, you can have it delivered. I don't know how people afford it. Look, I'm the CEO of a company, and so well, I'm not Bill Gates, but I don't got to worry about my lights being on tomorrow or being able to
Yeah.
buy groceries. So I'm
Right.
okay.
Yeah.
I look across the street and there's a family that lives over there, and it's 2 generations living there. It's the parents, and then the kid and his family have moved back in with them.
Yeah.
And no judgment, it is what it is. Like we've all
Yeah.
like look, I was on government assistance when my first child, when my wife was pregnant with the first child. I've been poor. I'm not judging
Yep.
poor people because I've been one of them a lot.
Yep. Yeah.
However, I see DoorDash going over there every fucking day. I'm like,
Wow.
one, how do you afford that? It's DoorDash is crazy expensive, and 2, that is terrible food for you. What are you doing to yourself?
I
Cut it
know.
out.
I know. And they just can't. I mean, you look, I always call it the brown diet, right? Like
Mm.
you look down at your plate and everything's brown. It's just there's no life, there's no energy to the plate. It's just brown. And you can't expect your body to be vibrant and have all this energy with a brown diet. It just not gonna happen. Like you can try, but I live by the 80-20 rule. So 80% of the time I try to eat healthy and 20% I do allow myself that garbage because the odd time you do want it, and there's nothing wrong with that. But to eat it
Hey,
every single day, yeah, it's expensive. Although if you look, it's almost more expensive to buy organic great vegetables and fruit
mm.
than it is to go get a Happy Meal or something. Do you know what I mean? And
I do
that's
because we at our grocery stores we get asked a lot to carry organic products, and so
Mhm.
I will bring in organic lettuce, and so we'll put the organic heads of lettuce. Like I don't know, my cost is like $3.20 or something like that, so I sell it at $4.59.
Right.
And I put it right next to the bag of lettuce that's not organic that costs $1.29,
Yeah.
and I have to throw away the organic lettuce because nobody will actually pay
Right.
the $4.59 for the organic when it's right next to the $1.29 regular
Right.
old industrial farmed lettuce.
Yes. It's
It just
crazy.
is, yeah, it just is
And
what it is.
they'll go to Starbucks and pay God amount of number for a coffee. It's like I don't understand. The lettuce, that organic lettuce, is going to give you so much more than that $4 coffee or whatever it is, right?
Yeah, let's
Like,
call it a milkshake because that's what it really is. I mean,
yeah,
it's,
true.
it's a milkshake with some coffee sprinkled in there.
Yeah, I don't drink coffee. So, but I worked, my dad, we've got stores up here called Tim Hortons. I don't
Oh
know
yeah,
if you probably have because you're closer to the border. But my dad owned a bunch of those and I worked there. And oh my goodness, people and their coffee. Whoa. And they'd be grouchy, and we'd have our regulars. So I'd have their coffee ready because it was just faster and easier.
yeah.
They'd always have a smile when I'd have the coffee there, but it was just, wow, holy smokes. You guys, how much are you spending? Like some of them would come back 2, 3 times, in a day to get their extra large coffee. And I'd be like, whoa, I don't know how you're
It's wild, man.
affording it. Yeah. It was really quite an interesting thing to watch, and then people would come in and they'd say, I'll take a dozen donuts. And I'd actually look at them and go, why? Like, why do you want a dozen donuts? And they'd laugh but it was, working in it, I'm glad because I never really liked donuts anyway, but working in the industry, it really, and not because of the way back then they were made fresh, like right in the back, flour, everything was made from scratch. Now they're not, but you know, it was just gross to me. Like it just wasn't food that I was ever raised on. So it just didn't appeal to me.
Yeah. And when I first broke into the grocery business in the early 90s, most of the stores still had a scratch bakery. And so I worked for a while, especially early in my career. I worked both nights and graveyard. So I would work swing shift, which at the stores I worked at was like 5 at night until 1:30 in the morning. And then graveyard was like 11:30 to 7. And
Uh,
so I would always, not always, but it was very common to have to let the baker in because the baker
yes,
would show up somewhere between 1 and 2 o'clock because,
that's right.
yeah, you got to mix all the batter and the
Yep,
dough, and then it's got to
yep,
proof so that you can
yep.
make your stuff and then fry it off. And by the way, you fry donuts, you drop them in a deep fryer. That's how they're
That's
made. So you know.
exactly.
I know,
Yeah,
I know, I'm saying it for
yeah,
the for
yeah.
the audience, but yeah, if you
Exactly.
if you worked at a Tim Hortons, you know how donuts are made.
Oh yeah.
Um, and I was I was a hard worker and I was cheap because I was young. And so my bosses, I needed the money because we were married and we just had a kid and it was, my job to make the money. And so I would work. If they called me, I went. Like I took as many hours as I could get. And I was cheaper on overtime than most people were at regular pay because I'd been so new to the business.
Yeah.
And so we got some health violations in our bakery, and I had to go in with the baker a couple times at 2 a.m. and clean. And I remember cleaning, going, "Fuck, I don't ever want to eat another donut again. This is disgusting. Look at this place. This
I
is
know.
awful."
Yeah. Yeah.
And then it's the deep fryer too. Like, oh my god, I had no idea this stuff was so bad.
Oh, it's really bad. And a lot of the times they're using vegetable oil, which is even worse, and um
Right?
and they would clean out the fryer every week or something, once a week, and just the guck. Oh, ugh, no. And seeing them just go into the fryer and then absorb all of that oil, and then you go and you squirt it with a cream inside, and then you put some fondant on the top, and it's there's nothing good about it for
Yeah,
your body.
it's like you're thinking, how can I make this a little worse? I know, I'll sprinkle some powdered sugar on top of it.
Right, exactly. Yeah. It wasn't sweet enough, so we need to, put a little more in. Yeah, no, it's true. And I'm guilty of life loving sweets. I mean, I'll have a carrot cake, or I'll make my brownies, or I tend to want to make my own because then I know what's in it. But
Yeah.
certainly if I go out for dinner or something, I'm looking at the dessert menu. I'm not knocking anybody that, wants a donut, but it's just not my thing.
Well, and your partner's a baker too, so like
Yeah.
you have access to all sorts of great stuff, right?
Well, I do. And it's funny because when I first met him and it said baker, I was like, oh God, when do I tell him? Because I don't eat breads and pastries. They're just not my thing. And they never have been, even as a kid. And my mom would always bake. But brownies I'll eat and like that kind of stuff. But I'm just
Mm.
not a pastry bread. It has always upset my stomach. So I think it was like a couple of weeks in before I actually told him. And he said, well, you haven't had my stuff yet. I said, well, that's true. And I will say that his sourdough, it's good. I will have a piece of it every once in a while because it is really good. He learned in Europe, so
Mm.
he's very good at what he does. And yeah, if bread tasted like that all my life, I may have partaken a little bit more.
Yeah, sourdough is by far my favorite, and it's one of the few breads that can actually have a health benefit for you
Exactly.
because of the yeast that's in sourdough, right?
Exactly. Yeah, it's better for your stomach. And a lot of gluten intolerant people like myself can tolerate it because it doesn't have all of that yeast and everything else that's in there, and a ton of gluten. So I find any of his product actually, because we have a local miller here, so he uses all that. And then he buys all real butter, and there's nothing chemical that goes into any of his product. It's all really, really healthy, fresh, good stuff.
Yeah, that's awesome. That's good
Yeah.
stuff. And
Yeah.
like we were talking about, get it back as close to natural ingredients as you can, the better you're going to be, the better off it's going to be for you.
Yeah. And that's why I like to bake or cook more than anything, because I know exactly what's going in it and it's minimal. and I can buy organic eggs and I can buy organic whatever. I can't have caffeine, so I can't have regular chocolate. So I buy cacao.
Mm.
So and then I can make my own chocolate and my own brownies or whatever the case may be, or chocolate cookies or whatever. But out in the real world, I can't have that stuff. So it's my little guilty treat.
Yeah, for sure. So I was hoping to ask you about there's here in the States, we keep hearing stuff about Alberta and all of the kind of scuttlebutt about Alberta. From
Yeah.
a Canadian's perspective, what is going on with this, all this talk about Alberta and seceding from Canada, and what's that all about?
Well, Alberta has all the oil
Yeah.
in Canada, and the prime minister doesn't want to work with pipelines and things. And Alberta's just kind of getting tired of it. So I don't know a ton about it, but I just know that they all want to separate and get on their own and say screw you to the rest of Canada because of the crap that they're being put through. Because they have the oil or not the refineries. They've got the oil, those things that look like a big dinosaur. I'm losing my words here, but
Oh yeah, the oil
bigger,
rigs,
the rigs,
the
yeah.
derricks, yeah. Mm-hmm.
Right. So in Fort McMurray, they have a whole bunch of that, and they pull it up and then they send it to you guys and you refine it and then we buy it back because we don't have refinery.
Right.
And so there was supposed to be this big, huge pipeline go in for years. But of course, from the environmental standpoint, they didn't want to do it. And they should have built our own refineries because we have natural resources here. We've got the oil, we've got the water, we've got everything we need. And my mom always said, like, it's so stupid. They sell the oil and then they buy it back. Like, it's just ridiculous. And so I think Alberta's just had enough. They had the big forest fires there and nothing was being done to help. And they're done. They're really done. So I don't blame them. There's actually a lot of people from other parts of Canada who want to move there, especially if they separate, because there's a lot of us who are, listen, if I could get out of here, I would. I wouldn't stay in Canada at this point.
Why is that? I mean, you grew up there. What is it about Canada that's different now?
The politics is really different, and it's almost going toward the way the UK is right now. I think we are also subject for the New World Order, and I think they're really pushing digital ID. They're really pushing. There was just the other day, a police officer went to a woman's home because of a post she made about our prime minister on Facebook. And they were, not threatening her, but they were warning her, that if she continued to post, and there wasn't death threats or anything. I don't know what the post was. It didn't say, but she even said, I did not threaten anybody. I'm allowed not to like my prime minister. I don't like the prime minister. I post about what I don't like about him. I should be allowed to do that. This is ridiculous. And she was great, how she was treating it. She said, okay, that's enough. Bye now. And she closed her door. But, this is the way Canada's going, and our immigration is through the roof. There are so many illegal immigrants in our country right now that are getting so much subsidy. They're getting free health care. They're getting phones. They're getting their laundry done. They're staying in these 5-star resorts. Meanwhile, we have our own born and raised Canadians living in tents in cities because they can't afford anything. It's ridiculous. So you can't go to a grocery store here. I'll come out with 2 bags and I've spent $140, like easy. It's like you blink and you've already gone over tons of money. And I remember in university, I would fill my entire cart for $50. Yeah, that was back in the 80s and things have changed. And of course you wouldn't be able to do that now, but if you thought of it in terms of the same, $150 should fill your entire cart. And it's basically 2 bags. So Canada is heading down a really destructive path. And I would like to get out of here. I loved my country. I really did. Years ago, I was like, I'm Canadian. I love being Canadian. And I still love being Canadian. It's just that the wrong players are at the top. And I think everywhere is going to go through the same thing. I think they just have Australia, UK, and Canada because we were nice people and, we won't fight back and we won't this and we won't, I'm sorry, I'm sorry, I'm sorry, everywhere we go. So, good testing ground.
Yeah, it's fun. There's the term Mexican standoff is essentially two people pointing guns at each other.
Right. Yeah.
I have come up with the term a Canadian standoff, which is two people with one holding the door saying, "No, after you. No,
Right.
after you." Right.
Exactly. That's exactly it. Yeah. Yeah. And they'll bump into me and I'll say, "Oh, I'm sorry." Like it is kind of pathetic, but it's also kind of nice
It's
a
very
lot
polite. Yes. Canadians are very polite.
Very, but they need more of a backbone. Like we need to have more people seeing what is happening. Trump unfortunately pushed Carney into our political head because of his tariffs and of his, the one guy that was running against him was being compared to Trump in every way that you can possibly imagine.
Was that Polyev? Was it?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Pierre Polyev. And so because of that, it was a landslide. Like he was getting in, there was no question because Trudeau was, he was useless and he made so many people upset. So when Trump came out with the tariffs and he was doing all these things, and then all of a sudden the media started comparing Polyev to him, elbows up, and we voted, I did not, but a lot of Canadians voted for Carney without even looking at his background, without even trying to figure out who he was before, they called him Carnage in the UK.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah. And if you look at his history, yeah, he's a banker. So everybody thought, great. And he came out and he said he's going to stand up to Trump and he's going to do this and he's going to do that. Well, he's done none of it, of course, because he's part of the WEF. He's a little WEF puppet. He was behind the trucker freedom convoy bank accounts being frozen. That was
really
him. Yeah. That was Carney.
Wow.
Yeah. He was an advisor to Trudeau that whole time.
I found that whole thing outrageous when they did that.
Ridiculous. I went to Ottawa. I saw what it was with my own eyes. It was not at all what the media was saying. I was shocked. I even had, the YOLO app or something. I think it's called YOLO. Anyway, you can listen to the walkie-talkies. So okay. I listened to them leaving the West and coming here. I listened on the walkie-talkies to their whole conversations. And it was so heartwarming. It gave us all so much hope. Hey, and sorry, my dogs are barking.
Yeah, it's fine.
But it was anything goes, I guess. I'm going to let him out just a second.
Yeah, go ahead.
You go, buddy. You go.
All right, guys. We'll wait for Angie to come back. She's got a puppy, a dog emergency. I know how those go.
That's the problem with Live. But anyway, where was I? What was I saying? Oh yeah, the freedom.
You were talking about listening on YOLO to the conversations as they were working their way across the country.
Right. It was beautiful. I mean, there was little kids calling in and saying, "Thank you so much." Like I've never cried that much in my life. It was crazy. And to see what they turned that into, they had jumpy castles in the middle of Ottawa. They were feeding the homeless. They were shoveling in front of the stores. And even on those walkie-talkies, they were saying, guys, ambulance coming up on the right, move over. Yep. They were getting out of the way for the emergency vehicles. But according to the news, they were blocking the emergency vehicles. They were beating up the homeless and it was a white supremacist movement. Meanwhile, there was a ton of Aboriginals. They had a whole drumming session going on, which was going on in the background while they were reporting that it was a white supremacist function. Yeah. And the guy that held the flag that got all the attention was actually Trudeau's photographer, as it turned out, if you dug deeper. So that was planted there, of course. And, there's always going to be a bad apple in something like that because it's a group of people. But the majority of it, The image that I remember, my partner Simon and I went down to it, and I had a blue Jeep at the time that had, you could open the roof, and we had this big Canadian flag. We couldn't get right downtown because it was so packed, but we were in this lineup, and the sun was setting behind us, and all of a sudden we heard all these horns going, and I'm like, what is going on? And I turned around, and I kid you not, in the sunset was this big red truck coming, and it was the back end of the original group coming from the west, and they were coming up behind us, and I'm getting goosebumps thinking about it because it was the most incredible image I've ever seen in my entire life. And as they drove by us, we had the flag out. The one guy, they got stopped beside us, and he rolled down his window and he was crying because of all of the people that they had seen on the way, on the overpasses with their flags. And, it was such a beautiful encounter. And it was just, I'm so proud that I was part of that, And
No, for sure. And like, I don't think people remember that was a huge protest for all of the draconian COVID. Canada didn't relax those for much longer than most countries.
Oh,
and they were preventing transnational shipments, and you guys were locked in your houses, and like it was crazy. I do business with lots of vendors that are in Canada, and so when I was talking to people that were in Canada, they were saying, "Yeah, like we get arrested if we're out past 9 o'clock." It was crazy.
They wouldn't let kids go to a park outside, a play park. They wouldn't let them there. Mothers were taking their kids and they were getting arrested. They were getting $6,000 fines because they were out in a park outside. Like, seriously, it was ridiculous. Then we have a ski hill close by here called Blue Mountain. And there was a guy who went up there and he was skiing without a mask, and he got taken to the ground by police officers. And it was just something like, I've never seen anything like it. And then they said, oh, if you get vaccinated, it'll go back to normal, and all the bullshit they spewed. So all these people got vaccinated. And 2 weeks after, the numbers went back up again. We have to close everybody down again. And it really annoyed a lot of people that went and got those vaccines, because that's why they got them. And then they closed them down again. So that protest brought everybody together and made everybody realize that we were all feeling the same way.
Yeah.
And that's why they did. And I don't know if you saw, but the Supreme Court ruled it, because they called it, it was an emergent, they had installed the Emergency Act, because all they wanted to do was talk to Trudeau. That's all they wanted to do. And he wouldn't show up.
He's gutless. Yeah.
Oh yeah. So that's all, that would have ended it. All they had, and they were shutting everything off at 10 p.m. There was no horns going. There was nothing going on. And so near the end of it, they eventually had to call the Emergency Act, and a poor old woman got trampled by the horse. Like, it was awful. But the Supreme Court ruled it that was uncalled for. It was actually illegal to call the Emergency Act, that they weren't to do that. And so they appealed it, and the appeal got squashed as well. But again, what happened with that? Nothing. Nobody's been charged. But those poor people's bank accounts were shut down for a couple of weeks. They can't find these pedophiles, but they can find the people that donated $5 to the poor trucker.
Exactly.
It's
crazy.
Really? Like, how do you find that, but you can't find them? Like, hello.
Yeah, we've got a similar, I appreciate the background on Alberta, because I've tangentially heard stuff, but I haven't heard a lot about it. But we've got similar, there's so much fraud in the US government and all the programs that exist here now. So the way it works here is the government will fund all these not-for-profits, and that's their way around these being government agencies. So they're funded by the government, but they're not actually government agencies. Some of them are, but a lot of them aren't. And so there's almost no oversight, and it's so like rubber stamp. If you put in an application, they're going to rubber stamp it. Yes, you can open your business. And then you can send in whatever invoices you want. They're going to pay the invoices. There's nobody checking on this stuff. So
Yeah.
there's supposed to be daycares going on, and there's daycares that are running. You know what? I'll stick to the food one because that's right in my wheelhouse because I've been in that industry for 30 years. So there was during COVID, there was, I think, legitimate concern about, hey, there's all these kids at home that were only getting food at school, and now they're not at school, so they're not eating at all. Well, maybe we should have thought about that before we close the fucking schools and send everybody home to, what happens if I drink and my 3 kids get sent home to a dad now that's without a job with a drinking problem who's going to take it out on his wife and kids.
That's right.
I'm not that guy, but there's plenty of them out there, right?
Oh, yeah.
And so they come up with this program called Feeding Our Future. And in Minnesota, there's a bunch of businesses that get started up supposedly to feed kids. Well, they're sending in invoices for like 6,000 meals a day going out of these tiny little restaurants and tiny little bodegas. And I'm like, anyone with any experience in the food service business knows you need a commercial operation to crank out 6,000 meals a day. The mom and pop store at the corner or office 123B in that building is not cranking out 6,000 meals a day. It literally would have taken someone getting in their car, driving over and asking 3 questions to shut this down. But they stole billions and billions of dollars through this fraud. And there's a focus on Minnesota, but I will guarantee you that that's happened all over the country. It was not isolated to Minnesota, and it was not isolated to Somalians in Minnesota. But our deficit is now $39 trillion. And I can tell you that most Americans are just sick of, like, I think most everyone understands that some amount of tax needs to be paid. Everybody wants roads.
Of course.
Everybody wants fire departments. Everyone wants police, and everyone understands we need to collectively fund that if we want those services.
That's right.
Most of us are not willing to fund all of these ridiculous programs that go through the government.
Exactly.
That have no oversight, that don't yield any tangible benefit that we can see. And my whole point to this is there's no accountability to it. Like, who's being put in jail from the government that was supposed to be overseeing these programs? That's fraud.
Yeah.
That's theft. It happened on your watch. You should pay a price for it. And nothing ever happens to them.
I know. If you and I did it, we'd be in jail.
Rightfully, by the way. Rightfully.
Right. And we have a program called CPP, which is Canadian Pension Plan. And on every paycheck, you are deducted a certain amount on your paycheck that goes into an account for you when you retire.
Okay.
So my brother passed at 48.
Yep.
He had contributed to the CPP his whole working life. So he started working at 14. He got $2,500 in a death benefit. Nothing else.
The government kept the rest of it?
Yeah. So where's that money go? And every Canadian's in the same position. So until you collect it, and you can't collect it till you're 70. So, okay. So then most people probably, I mean, I don't know what the stats would be. I'd have to look it up, but I'm sure that not everybody makes it to 70. So where's that money going? And if I ran a finance company and said, Joe, give me your money. I'm going to take, $20 off every pay that you have. And when you're 70, I'm going to give it to you back, but in installments. You don't get it all back. You just get payments. But if you die, I get to keep it. Your family doesn't get it. Nobody gets that. It's okay. I get to keep that. Like, what? Who does that? Like, our government. That's who. Our government does that. They've been doing it for years. And the same thing. There are, Justin Trudeau was involved in a I think it was We or Me. I can't remember the exact name of the charity, but he donated a whole bunch of money from the government to this thing. And it's been proven, it went through courts, that it was all illegal, everything that he did, but crickets. Oh, sorry.
Yeah. He's still running around kissing Katy Perry.
Right. And like, what the hell? And then $50 million it took of our taxpayer money to create an app for the ArriveCan app. For if we went to travel during COVID and had to return, we had to fill out this stupid app in order to get on the plane and all this shit. I guess it's still ongoing. I don't know. people are like, oh yeah, if you fill out the app, you don't have to do, I'm not touching that. But why did it cost $50 million to create this app? Like,
it's so funny. I live in a little, I live in Cleveland area, but I live in a little town called Parma.
okay.
And they're putting a dog park in because we don't have a dog park here. So I'm really excited about it because my dog will love the dog park.
Yeah.
But I read that they're spending $600,000 on it. Well, I go to the place. It's actually a place I take my dog already to let her run. She loves to run off the leash. She's got a ton of energy. And there's a couple different places I take her so she can run and sniff and chase stuff and be a dog.
Yeah.
All they're doing is putting up a fence. I'm like, I got to start a fencing company because if you're getting paid $600,000 to put that fucking fence in, you're making pretty good scratch,
Right. I mean, that's all it is a fence. Like they don't have to do anything to the ground, nothing, just a fence.
No.
Oh my God. See,
yeah.
Problem. And I guarantee you, if you look into who's putting in the fence, it will be somebody that knows somebody that knows somebody in the council that is, here you go, bill me extra, like it's crazy. In my small town where I grew up, the same sort of thing happened. There was a big inquiry on it, and again, crickets, but it was all nepotism, and it was all, overpaying for, they put a bubble over this pool, and it was $3 million. Yeah. What? And literally, you could probably take a knife and go down the side of this bubble. Like what? But it was this gentleman who was a brother to the mayor who owned the company that, da 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 da. And they're technically always supposed to, put it out to the public and take in 3, 4, 5, what are they called?
Bids, RFP. Yeah.
Bids. Yeah. Like bids.
Yeah.
That didn't happen. It was just given to him. It's like, okay, so that's a problem. I mean, at least do that. At least make it look legit, right? But no.
Yeah, it's it reminds me of, and like I know people love to hate Donald Trump, but there's an ice rink in Central Park in New York, and it's called Woolman Rink. And it was a government project, and it was a typical government project. So it was way over budget. It was way behind schedule, and everybody was really pissed. And this was back, I think, let me look it up. I think it was the late 80s, early 90s. It was somewhere around there. And so Trump stepped in as a private citizen and said, hey, I'm a builder. Why don't you let me finish that thing? Because this is ridiculous.
Right.
And they said, you think you can do better? Fine. He had it done in something like 3 weeks. Like it was done and open to the public, like in 3 weeks. And he controlled it for a while and made some money off it and then gave it back to the city. But like, it's just a perfect example of, I just am so, look, I want to help people. I'm not a heartless jerk, like I can be a jerk, but I'm not a heartless jerk. There's a difference.
Right. Yeah.
And so I want to help people, but I think the government is a terrible vehicle through which to help people. It is awful. It's bloated. It's bureaucratic. It's expensive.
Terrible.
It's a terrible way to get aid to people that actually need help. It'd be way better if everybody kept way more of their dollars and we pushed that stuff through charities, through churches, the way we used to do it 50, 60, 70 years ago before we let this huge government bloat happen.
Oh, it's terrible.
It's like, I can't, I always challenge people. You just name me one in the US, name me one government program that works the way it's intended, that functions well. Just name one of them. Name one of them and I'll listen to the rest of your arguments.
With Canada. Same with Canada. Yeah, let me prove me wrong. Send it to me. Let me see something that's working. I mean, even our healthcare is terrible. Not that I like any part of that anyway. That's a whole other podcast. But I mean, even that is free. No, people, it's not free. You pay for it through your taxes, and I think that everybody that goes into the Emerge should get a bill. Not to pay it, but just to see how much that actually cost.
Yes.
Because it's free. No, it's not free. You've paid for it through your taxes. They're getting paid. The doctors get paid. Every nurse in there gets paid. It's, yeah, you don't have to pay extra to go there. And yeah, it is free. You go and you get your treatment and you leave and there's no bill. But there is a bill and you've paid it, through your taxes. But people just don't get the fact that we pay the government. Therefore, like, we've sent billions to the Ukraine. Okay, great. But what about our own people? What about the people living in tents? And how about a vote? Like, how about I get to decide, did I want my money to go there or did I want it to help the family that's living in a tent in Toronto right now?
Yeah.
Why don't I get that choice? And maybe it is a choice that everybody would pick the Ukraine. I don't know. Maybe, but it's our money. I feel like we should have that option to say where it goes to, but we don't.
There's an ongoing debate in the United States about government-run healthcare and what they call single payer, which is free healthcare. And I'm like, we already have that in the United States. It's called the VA, the Veterans, Association, or Veterans Authority, whatever the A stands for. Go ask a veteran how that works. See how happy they are with that service before we turn everybody's healthcare over to the government. And like that, the health system is, to your point, an entirely other podcast. I try to think critically. And so I explain to people, like, just name another service where you have to consume the product or agree to the service before you ever know what the price is. Like, that's healthcare. Would you ever go into a store and just randomly put food into your cart and have no idea how much it costs until you got to the register? Oh, and by the way, when you get to the register, you have to buy it. There's no putting it back.
That's
you already got it in your cart. You have to pay for it.
Yeah.
And then why does insurance necessary for basic things? Like, I think insurance is for catastrophic stuff. Like, you fell and you had a concussion, right? So if let's say you had a significant issue that required surgery, that's what insurance is for.
That's right. Yeah.
The trip itself, why would you not just be able to go to a hospital or a doctor and pay the $150 or whatever it is? Because they tell you, hey, this is what it is for an exam. It's going to be $150 for us to check you out. Do you want us to do it or not?
Yeah.
If so, pay for it. But if we got rid of all that stuff, if people expect insurance to pay for everything, but it's set up that way by our hospitals and by our insurance companies.
That's right.
So that you can't participate. I have, it's easy to tell by looking at me. I'm super Irish. And so I've got the very, very fair skin. So like I can burn in the shade. Me and the sun don't mix well at all. So I see a dermatologist, and every once in a while they'll find something that they've got to burn off. Yeah. And I was at my dermatologist one time. It was a different one when I lived somewhere else. And she said, we got to take this thing off. You got two options. And I said, well, how much do they cost? And she looked at me like I had four heads.
Oh my God.
And I said, which one costs less? And she said, well, this one costs less, but it'll hurt a little more. I said, I'm tough. I can take it. Do the cheap one.
Yeah.
She's like, your insurance pays for it, right? I said, yeah. And I pay for the premiums. Like, I own the business for the insurance.
Yeah.
Like, not only do I pay my deductible, I literally pay for all the insurance.
Exactly.
I want the cost to be as low as possible. So I'll grit my teeth. Do you have a belt I can bite down on? Let's get this over with.
Yeah, exactly.
But because it wasn't a significant procedure, it was just, hey, we got to get this thing off your skin before it turns into something you don't want it to turn into,
Right. Well, here's a little tip for you, just on a side note. If you get Lugol's iodine and mix it, put that on your skin first, and then put DMSO. I'll email this to you.
Thank you.
Over top. If you ever get a little spot like that again, treat it with that and it'll be gone.
Interesting.
Yeah. DMSO comes from pine trees, and Lugol's iodine for some reason works really well with it. You can mix in castor oil with it as well if you want a third, just to get really rid of it. But that will really, any kind of skin blemish or cyst or ache, pain, DMSO is incredible. Do look at it. Now, of course, it's going to be dangerous, right? In some of the articles, very dangerous.
What's not
Right.
dangerous?
Yeah. The only problem with it is people will use too much. You only need tiny little bit because it can burn the skin. So if you just use a little, like it goes a long way. You don't want to see it. It's got to disappear.
Got it.
If you put the Lugos on first, it penetrates deeper. The DMSO gets deeper and it works really well. I had a cyst and within 3 weeks, gone. It hasn't come back. It's like gone.
Wow. Thanks for the info. Yeah, if you wouldn't mind emailing that to me, I'd really appreciate it.
Yeah, I will. I'll email it because if you get those little blemishes, it'll really help. And you have to be patient. It might take, longer than you expect, but it will eventually get rid of it for you.
Awesome. Yeah, I like that. Because look, it's not going away. I'm not going to be less Irish tomorrow.
Right, exactly. Exactly.
Oh my goodness. Yeah. Well, Angie, thanks so much for joining me on the live stream. I really enjoyed our conversation, and I've got you down for follow-up because we've clearly got more stuff we can talk about somewhere down the road. Yeah, really appreciate you taking some time. And for the listeners too, don't forget, we're airing Angie's episode tomorrow. So it's the episode we'll publish tomorrow night when we normally publish our episode. So you can see why we had her on, because she's such an awesome person to talk to. And I don't want to spoil all the things you'll find out tomorrow, but I am telling you, her story has all sorts of value to it, and you can learn a ton from listening to how she talks about it. So make sure you check it out. But that's it, Angie. Thank you so much. Really appreciate the time. And I'll keep my eyes open for the skincare email that you're going to send me.
Yeah, I'm going to email you right now before I forget, because 57 and a fall. You'll be emailing me in a week going, hi, you were going to send me some stuff.
Yeah, exactly. And if I have to introduce myself when we see each other again, I won't take it personal. I'll chalk it up to the fall.
Yeah, don't. Meeting you all over again. It'll be great.
Exactly.
Thank you so much, Joe, for having me. It's been a great talk. Thank you.
Thanks, Angie. Have a great night.
You too.
Okay.
Bye.
Bye. All right, guys. Thanks for checking out the live stream tonight. Really appreciate it. Again, we're going to be live every Thursday night from at 6 p.m. Eastern. We've already got guests lined up through September. We introduced the live stream to some of our guests, and they were really excited about coming back on and talking in front of you guys. Really appreciate you checking out the live stream. We publish episodes 4 days a week. We do the live stream on Thursdays. Tons of value, tons of stuff to listen to, tons of stuff to learn from. It's all really good stuff. You can head over to our website if you're not subscribed to our channel already. Our website is saltygingertalk.com. All of our podcast episodes and the recordings of our live streams are there as well. We publish a newsletter every weekday you can subscribe to on our website. We've got all our social media links on our website as well. And if you can like, share, comment, subscribe to our podcast, it's super helpful for us. We're seeing rapid growth in our subscribers, and we really appreciate the support. It's really helping us get the message out and trying to talk more people into living a life of meaning and purpose and go after what you want. And so I really appreciate all the support we're getting from you guys. All of it's good stuff. It's really going to help you out. So make sure you catch our next episode and or our next live stream, and we'll see you guys when you show up there.